I kind of seen something earlier, and I was sitting in bed right now, and somehow it came back, and I felt like maybe I could make a recording for myself to try to tap more into what I've seen, or to speak it out loud, because I need to speak it out loud in order for me to grasp it in a way. Right now, it's in me like a knowing, but it's like a compact, full knowing that has no words. And right now, it's like having this mass of wool that you start to pick threads from it, and as you pick the threads from it, it starts to unpack. Uh, so the idea is, I think it might be short, or it might be long. Who knows? Let's see. But I think, like, where it started is like oh, the light bulb from the room today. It got jammed, so for, I don't know, 1 hour or so there was no light because the light bulb wasn't working. So I had to go get another bulb. I replaced this one, and I think that after I replaced the bulb, it's like I was looking, and I don't know, something made me think about how the bulb, the light bulb works. That here I'm using these old-time gas powered light bulbs, which are not LED bulbs nor economical bulbs. They are the old timers bulbs, which by the way, I use them because I find them to be more healthy for the brain. Like it's a type of light that, in my opinion, resembles more a type of natural light. These old time bulbs. I have to find the names of them. They have a name. By the way, it's 1 p.m. in the night here, and my eyes are a bit. Maybe I'm talking too slower. Maybe my psyche is a bit asleep. Uh, yeah. So I'm using these old time light bulbs that they are using like this gas inside of them, and they have this coil, and that coil gets heated, and the gas then gets heated, and it emits light. So after I installed the bulb, I went in my head like again through the how the light bulb works, and I was, what a thing that the electricity passes through that coil, and then all of a sudden the gas contained within that glass container gets the molecules, the atoms within the gas starts to frictionate, and by that friction they create freaking light. And then I was thinking like, wow, and then the light travels from the bulb and touches the walls and touches the objects in the room, and then from those objects the light bounces from those objects and enters into my eyes. And I don't know, when I was looking at this process, so it's like looking at it mentally within my mind but without thoughts. It was like all this entire process happened in a millisecond. Like all this entire thread of thinking happened extremely fast. Like it was maybe one or let's say 1 second or 2 seconds, but it happened extremely fast. It was with no thoughts. It was just images. Like I would have a like there would be a like this 3D software where my mind works with images, and it just works with them without thoughts, and it just can like spin the image and look around it. And this is how it was looking at the concept, how the light bulb works, and it was seeing these concepts and these word workings and these images. And all of a sudden, while looking at those inner images, it's like nah, but something that doesn't feel right when when the, when I'm thinking that the light comes from the light bulb, and then it gets emitted out, and then it touches the object, the walls, and from the walls it's being reflected into my retina. And it doesn't felt right. So that instance with the coil being like the coil having electricity pass through it, and that electricity making the atoms in the gas ignite, that felt real. That actually felt real. It felt something real about that. Something accurate, something okay, something in line. There was a okay feeling about that. But then when I was thinking and looking at what happens after that, that after those atoms have been ignited and that light passes forward, it felt like no, that doesn't feel right. It's not like that. It doesn't happen like that. And the thing that felt right is that I think that how light actually works is that I don't think that light, a source of light, is here and it's emitting light outside. No, I don't think that that is happening. I don't think light actually emits light, like rays of light. I don't think that's the case. I think what happens is that when there is a source of light open or on or active in a room or in a like the sun, or when there is a source of light, I think what happens is that that source of light does not actually travel outside of itself and touches the objects, and from the objects it is being reflected into my eyes. I think that what might happen is that when there is a source of light ignited, active, that source of light has a sort of polarization effect towards the material world around. And I think if it's like that source of light ignites the atoms in the matter around us. It's like these atoms here would be like, let's say, pixels, if that makes sense. And when there is a source of light, those pixels are turned on. It's like they're activated. It's like the light within the atoms themselves. A source of ignition happens within the atoms around, and the atoms themselves, they ignite, and they show themselves like this, in this way. They start making up the room, the walls, the objects, the bodies, whatever. This is how it feels. It feels like when there is a source of light active, the light within the atoms gets ignited. So that source of light, that pure sense of light, has a capacity of what could be described as polarization. It's like there is an inner capacity for things to be ignited, and what what light or a source of light does is that it more than emitting light outside, it's holding an inner will or a inner wish or powerful capacity, a powerful will for things to be ignited. And that powerful capacity, it acts like a polarization force. It polarizes the atoms around to switch themselves, to switch from off to on, let's say, to switch from their passive state to their active state. Like there would be pixels with one and zeros. Like a pixel could be dark or lighted on the screen, let's say. This is how the atoms around can show themselves in this way or not when there is a light source. So the light of source could be the sun, which I think it has a lot of polarization power because it's a huge light source. It can polarize a whole bunch of things at once, making the atoms show themselves. Or it can be a small light source like a light bulb. And it can polarize only the atoms in this room. So this is how it feels. It feels like when there is a light source, the atoms have the capacity to ignite their own cores. And when the core of an atom is ignited, it shows itself. It's like the objects would light themselves up. There's nothing lighting up the objects. For example, I always like so many times I'm showing this cup because it's here, but next to the where the laptop is placed. But so, for example, I think that because I'm seeing this cup not because light comes from the light bulb and touches it, and then that light goes into my eyes and my brain processes the information. And no, I think the light from the light bulb polarizes somehow the matter in this cup, and the matter for the moment it is held in this polarized shape, it ignites. The atoms ignite themselves, and it's lighting itself up. It's like this cup is lighting itself up now. It's holding its shape right now. It's holding its shape like this right now by lighting itself up from the interior of the atoms. The atoms themselves have lighted themselves up right now. But if I am to turn down the light or stop touching the cup, and I think the atoms might just turn themselves off or something like that. The atoms continue to remain here, but they can switch from multiple states. I think the atoms, an atom can have multiple states of existences, if that makes sense. It can be on, it can be off. I even think that an atom can have multiple properties, like a multi-dimensional, like a Rubik's cube, a multi-dimensional structure with a lot of superimposed states. For example, a single atom can transform itself. It can be activated as a color, making up a color, making up a smell, making up. So it has a multi-dimensional of superpositioned states of existences in a single atom. And by being polarized by certain forces, you can drive from that atom, you can make that atom look like a color or like a smell or like a color and a smell, or but it's just what polarizes the atoms. So it's there is a force here that polarizes the atoms around us, and the atoms just shift and show themselves to match the polarization of that force. So this was the insight related to light, and I think it's the same. It works the same for sounds, but I think the for sounds, for smells, for all other types of perceptions, it works the same. It's just these atoms that they are being polarized, and they are showing themselves in different ways, like pixels on a screen that you can turn on and off. And when they are not polarized by anything, they are in this, let's say, passive resting state. And when they are polarized, they start lighting themselves up, or displaying themselves in a certain way. But I don't think there is a light that goes from what the heck, like it's for sure it doesn't have any. What I'm saying right now is just it's a sounds like a craziness for the mind, right? Because all the physics says that light passes from the light bulb and it touches the objects, and then it is being reflected from the objects to the eyes. But no, I don't think it's like that. I don't think it's like that at all. I think it doesn't feel to be like that, at least. It, it feels that exactly as I described it, it's like the atoms are self igniting themselves. So the objects, the room, everything is the walls, the objects, the books, whatever, the body, it's self igniting itself. It's everything, it's igniting by itself from its own self. It's nothing, no external light makes things visible. They are making themselves visible when they are being polarized in a certain way. When they are given the command, let's say, hey, you need to become visible now. The light bulb is only the command, let's say, the the device that sends the commands, like a command prompt on a computer. It sends the command, okay, light out, and it has the polarizing force. And then the matter around starts polarizing itself. So I think it works with touches the same, with sounds the same, but I think the source of polarization differs and how the polarization happens. For example, with sounds, it seems different with sounds because sounds don't seem to have a thing that polarizes them in a way. Sounds seem to polarize themselves somehow, to enact themselves in existence. So they are a bit different than the visual information. Yeah, so yeah, this was the insight.